Roll Tide, everyone, and welcome to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. I'm Roger Hoover, joined by Kara Goldstein. Roll Tide, Kara.
Roll Tide. We got another win for Alabama basketball. How'd those ratings, Roger?
Excellent. According to the Ken Pomeroy ratings, Alabama owns the nation's top-ranked defense entering this matchup against the Georgia Bulldogs. But the story of the game would be the Crimson Tide offense.
Alabama jumped ahead of Georgia early on. The Crimson Tide used a couple of threes from Javon Quinterly and John Petty Jr. on a 9-2 run to take a 19-12 lead. Georgia cut the lead to 1 at 23-22 with just over 10 minutes to go, but that is as close as the Bulldogs would get. Alabama used a 13-4 run to take their first double-digit lead of the game, 36-26. The Crimson Tide took their largest lead of the first half, courtesy of this dunk by John Petty Jr. at 46-31. There it is, it's gorgeous. Alabama knocked down 11 of 17 three-point attempts in the first half to take a 51-38 lead at the half.
In the second half, Alabama used a 16-5 run to take a 20-point lead, 72-52 with 12:48 to go. Alabama continued to add to its lead as Javon Quinterly put the Tide over the century mark with this three-pointer. That tray made it 102-76 with just over 2 minutes to play. Then Darius Miles. This would be the play as he would dunk over the Bulldogs defender as he took it from the backcourt to the front court, jumping from outside the paint. The dunk by Miles was the exclamation mark on Alabama's victory as the Tide rolled over the Bulldogs 115-82. 115 points is the Southeastern Conference game record for the Crimson Tide and the most points scored in a game since 1971. Alabama had 5 score in double figures, led by senior Herb Jones with a career-high 21 points, connecting on 3 of 4 from beyond the arc. Jones also led the Crimson Tide with 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks. The 33-point margin of victory is the Tide's largest of the season.
And with his first three-point attempt, John Petty Jr. broke the school record for three-pointers made in a career, currently at 745, and he now owns every three-point record in program history, including threes made for a career and the most three-point shots made in a single game.
And with that record-setting performance against Georgia and the win over South Carolina last Tuesday, the Crimson Tide have moved back into the top 10. Alabama moves up 3 spots in this week's Associated Press poll to number 8, just ahead of Oklahoma and Villanova. 3 other SEC teams are in the top 25 this week. Tennessee is 19th, with Missouri at 20. And the Razorbacks enter the top 25 this week. Arkansas comes in at 24.
The coaches put the Crimson Tide back in their top 10 as well. Alabama moved up from 11 to 9. Alabama is just ahead of Oklahoma in the coaches poll as well. Only 2 other SEC teams are in the coaches rankings, with Missouri at 19 and the Tennessee Volunteers at 20.
Along with being ranked in the top 10, Alabama is also starting to get a lot of love in the mock NCAA tournament brackets. Joe Lunardi currently has the Crimson Tide as a 2 seed, while the NCAA Division I Men's Basketball Committee unveiled their top 16 teams right now, and the committee had Alabama as their 7th best team.
You know, that's a really good sign for the Crimson Tide as we near postseason play. I mean, we're just coming off of the Crimson Tide football team winning a national championship, and now we're talking about the Tide being a high seed in the NCAA tournament. It is a really good time to be an Alabama fan.
Absolutely. Roll Tide to that. And what a better way to keep all this excitement going than talking about a big record-breaking win over Auburn. We'll have that for you coming up right here on Tide TV This Week.
Tide TV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. The University of Alabama, where legends are made. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide.
Welcome back to Tide TV This Week, brought to you by Thompson Tractor. It's been a great week for the Alabama Crimson Tide basketball programs. The men had a record-breaking performance against the Georgia Bulldogs, scoring 115 points, and the Alabama women's basketball team also had a record-breaking scoring performance against the Auburn Tigers this past Sunday.
You know, this was the second time this season the two teams have met on the hardwood. Coach Christy Curry's squad defeated Auburn 67-55 just 3 weeks ago at home in Tuscaloosa, and the Tide would go for the season sweep over the Tigers, this time on the road in Auburn.
Alabama got off to a hot start in the opening quarter, scoring 10 of the first 10 points of the game, and also scoring 19 of the first 23 points to lead 19-4 with 3:25 to play in the first period. The Tide connected on 5 3-pointers in the opening period to lead 22-10. The hot shooting from beyond the arc continued to begin the second quarter. An Allie Craig Cruz 3 and also a 2 by Jasmine Walker put the Tide up 31-12 as Bama led 39-27 at halftime.
The Crimson Tide had one of its best offensive quarters of the season, scoring 28 points in the third as Alabama led Auburn 67-49 entering the final 10 minutes of play. The Tigers used a 14-4 run to cut the lead to single digits in that final period, but would come no closer than 9. Jasmine Walker scored 21 points in the final fourth period to lead the Tide to the 92-78 win on the Plains. Along with the regular season series sweep over Auburn, the story of the game was the record-breaking performance by Jasmine Walker.
Jasmine Walker broke a nearly 30-year-old scoring record for the Crimson Tide with 41 points in the win over Auburn. As Kira mentioned, 21 of those came in a crucial fourth period when Auburn cut Alabama's lead to single digits. Along with the 41 points, Walker added a game-high 15 rebounds for the double-double. Arai Copeland also finished with a double-double as she had 21 points and 11 rebounds. Hannah Barber also dished out a game and career-high 11 assists in addition to her 9 points, with Jordan Lewis adding 7 assists and 8 points.
And for her record-breaking performance in the win over Auburn, Walker was selected as the SEC Women's Basketball Player of the Week. Walker's 41 points broke Amy Lannon's 38-point scoring record that had stood since 1992. With her 15 rebounds, Walker became the first SEC player since 2003 to have 40-plus points and 15 or more rebounds in a single game.
So congratulations to Jasmine Walker, a huge performance and a big win for the regular season sweep over Auburn.
The big performances just keep on coming this past week for the Crimson Tide. Despite a last-minute schedule change, the Alabama softball team came up with a perfect performance in the season opener this past weekend. We'll have that and more coming up right here on TideTV this week.
TideTV This Week, presented by Thompson Tractor, the exclusive provider of Caterpillar heavy equipment and genuine cat parts for Alabama and Northwest Florida. Visit ThompsonTractor.com for more information. Ford, for great offers on F-150, see your local Ford dealer. Proud sponsor of the Crimson Tide. The University of Alabama, where legends are made.
Welcome back. It's already been an eventful start to the season for the Alabama softball team. Coach Murphy's squad was scheduled to begin the season last weekend at the home of the Texas Longhorns. But for the Texas Classic, that inclement weather that's been rolling through the South canceled that tournament and left the Tide sitting at home with no one to play on opening weekend.
But come on, Coach Murphy wasn't about to take the day off. What did he do? Well, he took to Twitter in search of an opponent to start the season. Here's what Coach Murphy posted. So, Alabama softball is looking for some games to play this weekend, home or away. Slide into my DMs if you're interested. We just want to play, and Roger, play they did.
Alabama State hosted the Tide on Friday night for a game in Montgomery. Then Alabama played Notre Dame on Saturday there as well. Then on Sunday, Louisville traveled here to Tuscaloosa for a doubleheader.
The last-minute scheduling didn't affect the Tide on the field, though. Alabama started the season off perfectly. Montana Fouts and Sarah Cornell combined to pitch a perfect game against Alabama State. Fouts threw a perfect 4 innings, striking out 9, while Cornell closed out the game with a perfect 5th inning for Alabama's 5th ever perfect game and the first since Alexis Osorio in 2017. Elisa Brown tied her own single-game school record with 4 stolen bases, and Alexis Mack scored 3 of Alabama's 10 runs, swiping a pair of stolen bags herself. Kaylee Toe added a solo home run in the 4th inning as the Tide run-ruled the Hornets to open the season 10-0.
Alabama followed that up with another 10-0 run rule win on Saturday, this time against Notre Dame. Lexi Kilfoyle had the Fighting Irish scoreless through 4 innings, giving up just 2 hits in the game. Jayla Torrance closed out the game by pitching a scoreless 5th inning. Alexis Mack was 3 for 3 with 3 runs scored and a pair of runs batted in. Claire Jenkins had a team-leading 3 runs batted in, coming on a 3-run double that ignited an 8-run 5th inning to run rule the Fighting Irish. The win improved Alabama to 6-0 all-time against Notre Dame.
After a perfect performance to open the season on Friday night, Montana Fouts returned to the mound on Sunday to face the Louisville Cardinals in Game 1 of a doubleheader. And just like her season opener, Fouts didn't allow a run, pitching 7 scoreless innings and only giving up a hit, though she struck out 11. Over 11 innings pitched on the weekend, Roger, she gave up just 1 hit while striking out 20. How incredible is that? The offense managed 8 hits and 5 runs as the Tide won with another shutout victory, 5-0.
Lexi Kilfoyle continued her scoreless streak with another shutout win in Game 2. Kilfoyle threw 7 scoreless innings, striking out 10, only allowing 3 hits. Bailey Dowling's 2-run homer led the Tide offense as Alabama closed out the weekend with a perfect 4-0 record with a 4-0 win.
What an incredible weekend for the Tide. I mean, a perfect start to the season on Friday night with a perfect game, and then the Tide wrapped up the weekend with a perfect 4-0 record.
A perfect start to the season indeed. And in the doubleheader sweep over Louisville on Sunday, Coach Patrick Murphy earned his 1,100th win as head coach. With the 4-0 start, the Crimson Tide moved up 3 spots in this week's rankings to 5th in the USA Today NFCA Coaches Top 25.
Softball started the season this past weekend, and this weekend the 25th ranked Alabama baseball team opens their season here at home with a 3-game series against McNeese State.
Earlier this week, I had the opportunity to talk with the head coach of the Alabama baseball team, Brad Bohannon, about the Tide's opening weekend. Joined now by Coach Bohannon. And Coach, no matter what level of baseball, no matter how many years you've been in the game, I'm sure this is always one of your favorite weeks in the year, getting ready for opening day. How's it going?
If you're not excited about opening day, you need to play another sport or do something else. I think you throw in last year's situation and you know how much we really like our kids and our team, and just makes it. I'm a little extra anxious, to be quite honest. Really excited, and Friday just can't get here soon enough.
What have you learned about your team since all the players returned back from the holiday break and started gearing up for the season?
Well, the kids trained really well at home. They went home before Thanksgiving, so it was an extra 2 weeks from Thanksgiving to when they returned in the second week of January is the longest period of time that we've ever had, in the middle break. And the kids trained really well. They came back in great shape, and we were able to hit the ground running. So just really proud of the makeup of our club. I think it says a lot about their intangibles. We have a lot of kids that are, serious about baseball and really determined to win.
And you really have some outstanding athletes on this team. You talked before about the great defense that you feel like this team is bringing. The hitting, the pitching, is really everything starting to come together for this program?
Well, I really like where the roster is right now. We've got some length to our pitching staff. We've got some athleticism and, nice balance. So, we're in a good place. We're a young group. We've got 11 guys that have played in an SEC game before in a year. In college baseball, where there's going to be 22 and 23-year-olds, all around the country. So, but we got a good roster. We've got a lot of good players, and really happy with where we're at right now, but we need to continue to be better.
Really all starts on the mound. What can you tell us about your pitching staff heading into the first weekend?
Really excited to see Connor Prelip on Friday. Had an amazing freshman year, with it just being 4 weeks, but he's made some really nice strides in the past 12 months. So, really expect that he'll get us off to a great start. Chase Lee and Brock Guffey are going to be 2 guys that have experience and that we're going to use in high leverage situations out of the pen. Then after that, we got about 8 or 9 guys that I'm really anxious to see in extended outings, and Antoine Jean is going to start on Saturday, and Dylan Smith's going to start on Sunday. But don't look into that too much. We've got 6 or 7 guys on their heels that have pitched every bit as good as those guys have that'll, come in and throw 50 or 60 pitches. And hopefully by the time we get to league play, a couple of those guys will separate themselves and establish themselves as Saturday and Sunday starters.
Then looking at your position players, just how many options do you have when you're sitting down to fill out the lineup card? How many options are on this roster for you right now?
Well, I think you've got 5 or 6 guys that have separated themselves that are everyday players and very good players. And then in those last 3 or 4 spots in the lineup, there's, 7 or 8 guys that I'm really want to give, multiple opportunity to and kind of see how it shakes out. And some of that will be based on matchups. So, in my mind, we've kind of got 12 starters, and maybe we'll go through the season that way. Maybe it ends up being, 13 or 14, or maybe we whittle it down to, a true 9. And that's kind of the beauty of having a 56-game schedule. There's a lot of opportunity for everyone.
56-game schedule, but it starts with 3 games this weekend at the Joe against McNeese State. Just what can you tell us about the Crimson Tide opponent coming in here to Tuscaloosa?
Well, it's an older team that's very left-handed. They got off to a really good start last year. In the short season, they had wins over Missouri and Southern Miss. I believe 4 of their 5 top hitters are left-handed hitters. So it's an experienced group, and it'll be a really good challenge right out of the gate, a team that is predicted to win their league, and we're going to need to play well.
Coach, thank you for joining us. Have a great opening weekend. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide, Roger.
That was Coach Brad Bohannon. We'll be back with more Tide TV this week, coming up next. Welcome back. The 6th-ranked Alabama gymnastics team hit the road this past Friday night as the Tide traveled to Athens to take on number 13 Georgia. Alabama tied their career season-best score on beam with a 49.350 and also posted a strong score on the uneven bars with a 49.375. However, some mistakes on vault and the floor exercise proved costly for the Tide. Luisa Blanco tied her career best on vault and scored career best in the other 3 events, including a career best all-around score of 39.625. Lexi Graber posted a strong performance with a 9.925 on floor, while Shania Adams posted a career best 9.875 on the beam. Even though the Tide posted their highest score of the season, Georgia narrowly defeats Alabama 197.275 to 197.000.
The Alabama volleyball team traveled to Arkansas this past weekend for a 2-game series. The Tide dropped Friday's opening match 3-0. In Game 2 on Saturday, Alabama fell behind 2-0, but battled back to win set 3 25-18. Alabama held a 4-3 lead in set 4, but Arkansas scored 5 consecutive points to take control and win the 4th set and the match with the 25-21 win.
The Alabama women's tennis team picked up a couple of wins on the week. On Friday, Alabama defeated Tulane 6-1, and on Wednesday, the Tide swept the UAB Blazers 4-0 to improve to 9-1 on the year.
The Alabama men's tennis team had a big weekend as well. The Tide swept Tennessee Tech in Saturday's doubleheader 7-0 in Game 1 and 4-0 in Game 2. The doubleheader sweep improves the Tide to 8-2 on the season.
The 17th-ranked Alabama men's golf team finished 6th at the Gators Invitational in Gainesville. Alabama was led by Wilson Furr, who finished tied for 11th at 6 under par.
And the Alabama women's golf team finished 9th at the Moon Golf Invitational in Melbourne, Florida. Polly Mack carded a 6 under par 66 in the final round for her lowest 18-hole score ever at Alabama. Her 3-day total of 208 was also a career best.
Stay with us. We'll have our plays and players of the week coming up next.
Front tuck step out to double pike.
Work in front court, drives in. Oh, mercy!
Darius Miles, you kidding me? Coming right to your living room. Oh, he just flushes it home. Gets up high. Forget hanging on the rim when you can get up high enough and just throw that thing in. Good.
Now let's take a look at our players of the week, brought to you by Payless Drugs.
Well, Alabama track and field's Yulid Kipsang and Amaris Tanisima broke the indoor mile records at the Tyson Invitational in Fayetteville. Kipsang shattered his own men's mile record he set last weekend at the South Carolina Invitational with the first place time of 3:56.88. And his teammate Amaris Tanisima took down another indoor program record. He lapped the track with a runner-up time of 4:33.22 to break the 34-year-old record held by Liz Lynch from 1986. Her time of 4:33.22 is also the 3rd fastest NCAA time ever.
Softball's Montana Fouts had a perfect start to the season. Fouts and Sarah Cornell combined to throw a perfect game to start the season against Alabama State. Fouts threw 4 perfect innings, striking out 9, and she followed that performance up with a complete game shutout over Louisville on Sunday, allowing just 1 hit and 1 walk across 7 innings.
Jasmine Walker had a record-setting day for the Crimson Tide in Alabama's season sweep of Auburn. Walker broke an almost 30-year scoring record as she scored 41 points in the 92-78 win over the Tigers. Walker also added a game-high 15 rebounds for her 11th double-double of the season. Walker was named the SEC Women's Basketball Player of the Week.
And Herb Jones is known as a defensive specialist, one of the best defenders in the country, but Herb's offensive game has improved a lot. So much so, in fact, that on the day that the Crimson Tide scored a school record 115 points against an SEC opponent, Herb led the team in scoring with a career-high 21 points and led the team with 5 rebounds, 4 blocks, and 3 assists. And he wasn't even playing at 100%, Roger.
That's been the case all season long for Herb Jones.
Those are our Payless Drugs Players of the Week. Wow, what a busy week, Roger. We covered 11 different sports this week. I feel like we're getting pretty good at this.
Yeah, great job, Kira.
Thanks. Good job, Roger.
Well, thank all of you for watching another episode of Tide TV this week.
We hope to see you next week. Thank you so much, and roll Tide.
Roll Tide, everyone.
This has been a presentation from Learfield IMG College.